English Easy Podcast.
Hello, learners. Welcome back to English Easy Podcast, your partner to learning English. And welcome to today's deep dive.
Yeah, we have a really fantastic mission for you today.
We really do. Because what if I told you that the difference between sounding like, a rigid automated textbook and a relaxed native professional comes down to just a tiny two-letter word?
It sounds almost too simple, right? Like a bit like a trick question.
Exactly. But today we are pulling from a fascinating stack of linguistic research and office communication guides, and we're on a mission to completely master the word do.
Yeah, and when you look at the research, this single word, it acts as the hidden infrastructure of native English. Mastering it really is the key to elevating your intermediate skills into fluent daily office communication.
Right. And I was reading through these sources, and honestly, I realized just how much we take this word for granted.
Oh, absolutely. We barely even notice it's there.
Yeah, because as an intermediate learner, you're usually taught that do is just, a somewhat boring grammar mechanism.
Like a helper word.
Exactly. A tool for asking basic questions like, do you want coffee? Or forming negatives. But the research paints a completely different picture for real-world English.
The reality is that do is basically a multitasking powerhouse. Native speakers use it for absolutely everything. I mean, from emphasizing a critical point in a board meeting to showing empathy about a colleague's health.
But before we start applying it to those complex office scenarios, the guides point out a major roadblock we have to clear up first.
Right, the classic do versus make dilemma.
Yes, exactly. This is a notorious challenge for English learners, especially, for Indonesian learners and other ESL speakers.
It really is. Because when you're studying English, you often translate both do and make into a single verb in your native language.
And that creates a lot of friction, right?
Oh, tons of friction. When your brain is wired to use one word for both concepts, stepping into an English-speaking office and, having to split them into two different words on the fly, it feels like a constant anxiety-inducing guessing game.
Wait, I struggle with this concept myself sometimes. The sources say do is for performing an activity, like the process, and make is for creating something, the result.
That's the fundamental pool, yeah.
But let's say I'm in the kitchen. If I'm cooking, I am technically creating food, right? There's a physical result at the end.
Right.
So why wouldn't I always just say make? Isn't differentiating the two just splitting hairs at that point?
I completely understand why it feels like splitting hairs, but it's actually about the mental movie you are projecting to the listener.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What do you mean by mental movie?
Let's look at the direct comparison from the sources. You could tell your coworker, I did the cooking last night. Or you could say, I made dinner last night.
Right. Both describe the exact same evening.
Exactly. But the camera angle of your mental movie shifts depending on the word.
Mm-hmm.
When you say, I did the cooking, you are pointing the camera at the physical activity.
So the focus is on the effort.
Right. You're telling the listener about standing at the stove, chopping the vegetables, the performance of the task itself. But when you say, I made dinner, you cut the movie straight to the final scene.
The finished plate on the table.
Yes. The focus is entirely on the final product, the meal sitting on the dining table.
Okay, so it's almost like a factory. Do represents the gears turning and the sparks flying on the assembly line, and make is the shiny new product that eventually rolls out the door.
That is the perfect way to visualize it. The gears turning is the do. The finished car is what you made.
I love that.
And once you internalize that distinction, the process versus the product, confusing the two words, really starts to fade away. If there is no physical or tangible product at the end of the activity, you're almost always going to use do.
That clears up so much. And if do is this engine of activity in our personal lives, I imagine it must be working absolute overtime in a corporate environment.
Oh, for sure. I mean, all we do is execute tasks all day in an office. The workplace is where this word truly shines.
Let's start with how we identify ourselves professionally then, because I noticed in the guides, when you go to a networking event, the absolute standard question is not, what is your profession?
No, nobody says that.
Yeah.
The standard is, what do you do?
Right. And the responses follow that exact same pattern. People say things like, I do marketing, or I do shift work, or she does freelance writing.
Exactly. Because you aren't producing a physical object called a marketing. You are performing the ongoing daily activity of marketing. The gears are constantly turning.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I also noticed we use it for everyday office chores where there isn't really a great specific verb.
Like what?
Like you constantly hear people say, I'm doing emails.
Oh yeah, all the time. Because you aren't emailing as a verb in that context. You're performing the grueling task of sorting through your inbox.
So you say, I'm doing emails, or I'm doing a report, or he's doing overtime. It becomes the sort of universal action word to describe the daily grind.
It really does. It carries the weight of our professional lives.
Now, I was reading further into the sources, and I was genuinely shocked to see that do isn't just used to describe actions. It's actually used as a weapon for emphasis.
It is. It's incredibly powerful.
How does that work, though? I always assumed if you wanted to emphasize a point, you just raised your voice or used stronger vocabulary.
Well, raising your voice can sound aggressive or defensive in a professional setting. Instead, native speakers use the emphatic do to push back against doubt while remaining completely professional.
Oh, that's clever. Give us an example.
Let's say a colleague looks at you and says, "You don't understand the client's needs." If you just reply, "I understand," it sounds a bit weak. It's just a defensive statement.
Right. It doesn't have any punch to it.
Exactly. But if you insert our magic word and say, "I do understand," you instantly change the power dynamic.
You're pushing back against their assumption. That is incredibly practical for office disagreements.
It's a game changer.
Let's actually pause for some interactive pronunciation practice here, because the sources are very clear that to sound natural, the physical mechanics of your voice really have to change.
Oh, completely. The tone is everything here.
Right. So when using do for emphasis, all the vocal weight must land heavily on the word do. The pitch of your voice needs to go up slightly, and the volume needs to increase right on that single syllable.
And you really have to lean into it.
Exactly. So I'm going to say the phrase, and I want you, the listener, to repeat it out loud wherever you are. Imagine your coworker is doubting your commitment. You need a strong, confident tone. Ready? I do understand.
Notice how the physical drop in the voice after the word do is what anchors the confidence.
Yeah, it grounds the whole sentence. Let's try one more to really lock in that muscle memory.
Sounds good.
Imagine your boss thinks you forgot to submit the weekly paperwork, but you know for a fact you handled it. Ready? I did submit it.
They're perfect. When you control the stress in the sentence like that, you are no longer just communicating information. You're commanding respect.
Okay, so if this word is that powerful, how does it look in the wild? To move from these isolated rules to complex implementation, let's explore a storyline scenario from our sources.
Let's do it.
Put yourself in this situation, listener. It is Monday morning. Two colleagues, let's just call them colleague A and colleague B, they're standing by the coffee machine discussing their weekend and their current projects.
A classic office setup. Let's analyze how did DCB weaves through this kind of everyday interaction.
Right. So colleague A kicks it off simply by asking, "How are you doing?"
And colleague B replies that they had so much work to do over the weekend. They did the report and they did the presentation slides.
Which is interesting because they could have said completed the report or crafted the presentation slides.
They could have, but in casual office English, did is the go-to verb for executing those tasks. It feels less rigid.
Yeah, much more natural. Then colleague A responds by saying a break will do them good.
I love that phrase.
I want to spend a second on it, actually. Using do for health and well-being feels incredibly specific. Why not just say a break will benefit your physical state?
Well, because language in the office is not just about transferring data, it's about relationship building.
Right.
Clinical language, like benefit your physical state, it puts up walls. It sounds like a doctor diagnosing a patient.
Yeah, it's a bit cold.
Exactly. But do you good is warm. It shows empathy. It signals that you care about your coworker on a human level.
That distinction is crucial. Okay, moving on with the scenario, they start discussing the weekend itself. Colleague B says they did absolutely nothing on Sunday.
Sounds like a great Sunday.
Honestly, yeah. And then colleague A asks if their partner minded the laziness, and colleague B replies, no, she does the same.
This brings us to a brilliant mechanism in the English language substitution.
I was wondering about this. Why do we say she does the same? If we didn't use do as a substitute verb here, wouldn't the conversation sound completely unnatural?
It would sound incredibly robotic. Without substitution, colleague B would have to say, I did absolutely nothing. No, my partner does not mind that I did absolutely nothing because my partner also did absolutely nothing.
Wow. It sounds like a broken record.
It really does. Native English values efficiency and forward momentum in conversation. We hate repeating ourselves.
So the word does just steps in.
Right. It acts as a placeholder, sweeping away all that repetitive clutter. It keeps the conversation moving forward smoothly.
That makes so much sense. Substitution is one of the biggest secrets to sounding like a natural professional rather than someone reading from a script.
Exactly.
Okay, so concluding our coffee machine scenario, colleague A asks for help with an upcoming presentation.
And colleague B replies that they could do with a bit more notice next time, but they will do their best to help.
Let's dissect could do with. If we connect this to the broader culture of office politics, this phrase is a vital tool.
Oh, absolutely vital. It means you would benefit from, or that you need, something.
But saying I could do with a bit more notice is a very soft, diplomatic way of telling your coworker, you messed up and you should have told me earlier.
Exactly. It delivers the criticism without starting a fight.
And following it up with I'll do my best is the ultimate professional commitment. You're managing expectations while promising maximum effort.
It's the perfect response. But there is one specific phrase right at the end of this colleague scenario that requires a deep dive all on its own.
Oh, really? Which one?
Well, colleague A thanks them and says, that will do nicely. This single phrase perfectly demonstrates how tone entirely dictates meaning in English.
Oh, yes. The sources refer to this as using do for sufficiency when you want to communicate that something is enough or that it is acceptable.
Right. Think about being asked what kind of pen you need to sign a contract. If you were handed a cheap blue pen, you might say, this pen will do.
Meaning you aren't fussy and the pen is perfectly acceptable for the task.
Exactly. But the phrase that will do is a minefield if you don't understand the context.
It really relies entirely on the power dynamic in the room and the exact tone of your voice.
We really need to explain the mechanics of this, because getting it wrong can severely damage a workplace relationship.
Let's use an analogy for the listener. Think of the phrase that will do like a volume dial on a speaker, but instead of volume, it controls warmth.
I like that.
If you turn the dial to a warm, collaborative tone, like colleague A saying, this will do nicely, the pitch of your voice naturally rises at the end. It means, perfect, thank you. That is exactly what I needed.
But if you turn that dial to a firm, authoritative tone, the mechanics of your voice completely change.
Right. The pitch drops flat. The words become clipped and short.
Imagine a strict boss holding up their hand and saying, that will do.
Just visualizing that makes me anxious, honestly.
Because in that flat, clipped tone, that will do is a command. It means, stop talking right now. I have heard enough. Your answer is unacceptable.
Wow. It's literally an order to cease the activity immediately. So, as an intermediate learner navigating an English-speaking office, controlling your tone here is paramount. You do not want to accidentally tell a coworker to shut up when you are genuinely trying to compliment their work.
No, that would be a disaster.
The guides actually offer a fantastic practical tip for this. They suggest always adding an adverb, like nicely or perfectly, to the end of the phrase if your goal is positive.
Oh, that's smart.
Right. Saying, that will do nicely acts as a safety net. It instantly removes any authoritative harshness regardless of your pitch.
It guarantees your intention is understood as collaborative.
Okay, before we synthesize all of this, put yourself in this real-world scenario for a second, listener. We're going to do a quick thought experiment to test this knowledge.
A quick pop quiz. Let's do it.
You are in the office break room. Your coworker is complaining that their lunch is completely bland and tasteless. You want to tell them that adding a little bit of salt will solve the problem.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Based on what we have covered, do you tell them that will make the trick or that will do the trick?
Take a moment to think about the underlying logic we discussed earlier.
I am reasoning through this as a learner. If I add salt to a meal, I am technically creating a new flavor profile. I'm producing a result.
True.
So my instinct tells me I should say, that will make the trick. Is that right?
It is a very logical guess, but the correct English idiom is actually, that will do the trick.
Wait, really? Why is that?
Because the phrase isn't focusing on the physical creation of the flavor. The idiom do the trick focuses entirely on the process of solving a problem.
Oh, I see.
The action of fixing the situation is the core meaning. That is why we also say things like, a good night's sleep will do the trick. When someone is exhausted, you cannot physically make a trick in this context.
Right. The focus is always on the action of achieving the desired result. That makes complete sense when you frame it around the process.
It really highlights how versatile the word is.
Now, to make sure you can walk into work tomorrow and apply this instantly, let's pull together a rapid-fire list of essential office phrases from our sources.
Phrase number 1, what do you do? Use this at any networking event when asking about someone's role or profession, focusing on their ongoing daily activity.
Love that. Phrase number 2, I'll do my best. The ideal response for committing to a challenging task while politely managing expectations.
Phrase number 3. I could do with, and you can add anything to the end of this. I could do with a coffee, or I could do with some help. Use it to politely express a need without sounding demanding.
And phrase number 4. That will do nicely. Use this to warmly confirm that a proposed solution or a piece of submitted work is completely sufficient and acceptable.
If you integrate just those 4 phrases, your daily office communication will immediately sound significantly more native and nuanced.
Look at the journey we've taken with this one tiny word. We started by dismantling that massive roadblock for learners moving away from translating do and make as the exact same concept.
Right, substituting that confusion with the mental image of the factory gears turning versus the final product rolling off the line.
We explored how it defines our professional roles, how it manages the grind of daily office tasks, and even provides a powerful vocal mechanism for pushing back with emphasis.
We uncovered the psychology of using it as a substitute verb to keep conversations moving forward efficiently too.
And we mapped out the dangerous territory of tone when declaring that something is sufficient. That will do.
It really is a profound shift in perspective. You stop seeing vocabulary as a static list to memorize, and you start seeing it as a dynamic toolkit for managing human relationships in the workplace.
With that in mind, I have a specific challenge for you, the listener. Do not just let this theory sit passively in your mind.
Put it into practice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Today, I want you to write down or even just speak out loud to yourself one original sentence using do in a professional context based on exactly what we explored.
It could be anything.
Whether it's an emphatic I do agree with the strategy or a polite I could do with some feedback on this project, actually put the mechanism to work.
Because that practical application is what builds true fluency. And, it leaves us with an interesting philosophical question.
What's that?
We have seen how one 2-letter word can act as an action, a substitute, an emphatic weapon, and a measure of sufficiency. Just imagine how much cognitive energy that flexibility saves native speakers every single day.
That's a great point. They aren't searching for complex vocabulary. They're just repurposing the simple tools they already have.
Exactly. Could it be that mastering English isn't actually about memorizing thousands of obscure, high-level corporate words, but rather deeply understanding the massive hidden power of the smallest ones?
Now, that is a perspective shift worth thinking about. You don't need a massive, heavy toolbox when you know how to fully utilize a Swiss Army knife.
Beautifully said.
Keep analyzing the language around you, keep practicing your tone, and keep diving deep. We will see you next time.